Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It is a beautiful Thursday morning, March 31st, 2022. We're going to go through an agenda, but we're going to focus on two key words throughout this morning's Zoom. Collateral shortfall. What is the number one reason why small businesses can't access capital? It's because they have a collateral shortfall. That is a technical term that means that their balance sheet is too light. They do not have adequate collateral demonstrated to give the lender confidence that if the borrower should not repay, that the lender can recoup to mitigate their loss. Collateral shortfall. That's the problem that you and I are going to solve together. Is we're going to eliminate the biggest issue that prevents most small businesses from being able to access funding, which is collateral shortfall. Okay, I'm sharing with you my screen. Let me make it larger and we'll work through it. So yesterday we announced with great response our new Debt Buyers Club. And, terminology, it's meant to be kind of spiffy and attention getting. But the bottom line is we can work together and monetize by helping eliminate collateral shortfall, which is the number one reason why most small businesses cannot qualify for funding. So the Debt Buyers Club, we bought the URL. You can see at the bottom, debtbuyersclub.com. But the bottom line is this is our group, our group of associates that are working together to solve this problem. And I'll show you how we can solve that problem and how you can make a lot of money by doing that. So let's continue on. Now, debt buying may be a foreign term to you, but there are hundreds or thousands of debt buyers out there. I was actually planning to show you a listing. We've got a list of a lot of debt buyers across the country. But historically, debt buying has revolved around the buying and selling of default mortgages, default car loans, and or default credit cards. What you and I are doing is a bit of a pioneering act of taking this out to a different segment and using debt buying to build the balance sheets of small businesses so they can eliminate what? Eliminate the collateral shortfall. The awesome thing about debt buying and selling, number one, it doesn't cost anything to become a debt buyer. So it's not like there's a buy-in or a fee-based training program or anything like that. But it is very lucrative because what we're able to do is buy at wholesale, sell at retail, make the spread. And the end result is, this is, in my opinion, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, frankly, even more profitable than real estate or cryptocurrency with less risk and more liquidity. So the concept is that we buy defaulted debt. And you might say, well, why in the world would you want to own defaulted debt? Isn't that worthless? No, quite the opposite. Defaulted debt certainly means that the original debtor is not paying as agreed. We understand that, but that does not mean that it's uncollectible. And in fact, it's very lucrative. And we'll go through in just a moment and talk about ways that the debt can be liquidated to translate into cash flow. But the bottom line is we can buy it for pennies on the dollar. So the return on investment is nearly exponential. Once a portfolio of purchased debt is acquired, it can be liquidated in several ways. And the analogy I use, which may not be a great one, but let's say that you and I decided, well, it's almost April, people are going to need their yards cut. Let's you and I start a new lawn care business. How does that sound? And we'll go out to the neighborhood and we'll sign up people on a summer lawn care maintenance contract. We'll agree to mow their yard and edge their edge near the driveway and sidewalk and so forth. And so would that be strong to go out and sign a bunch of clients to contracts? Well, sure, because those are considered receivables. An accounts receivable is an asset that's real that goes onto the balance sheet. But what's even better than having an accounts receivable? It's converting that accounts receivable into cash, right? Because ultimately cash is king. Well, here, when we're talking about purchasing a portfolio, there are four primary ways that the debt can be liquidated. The first of which is collections. And I understand I'm kind of hitting this at a high level. That's why we have the in-person trainings to spend a day. It's called a certification training, and we dig a lot deeper. But just bear with me here as we scrape at the surface. So the first way that AR can be converted into cash is through a collections effort, and collections efforts can either be done in-house or by third parties. We prefer to use third parties. We have a number of third-party debt collection firms that we work with that will send the letters, make the phone calls, report the debtors to the credit bureaus, and even then escalate it as needed. So they typically will work for free, which is interesting because it's the debtor that, if the contract is written properly, actually pays the collection fees. So let's say that you or a client had a portfolio of $100,000 and then it shipped off to a third-party collection firm. How much would you anticipate receiving over time? At least $100,000. And you say, well, what about the collection fees? The collection fees are charged to the debtor on top of the principal balance owed. The second way that debt can be liquidated is litigation. And this is a bit more aggressive approach, but essentially, instead of going through the normal collection process, just a lawsuit is filed. Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of former President Trump, is one of the most famous for litigating. He runs subprime rental housing units in multiple states, high rate of default, a lot of low income tenants, and he is quick to litigate. And so when you litigate, if you have a well-written contract or he has a lease agreement, you pretty much always win. And then judgments are issued, garnishments against people's paychecks, against their retirements, asset sales, and so forth. So litigation is a very lucrative way to also liquidate accounts receivable. Certainly, thirdly, purchase debt can be resold because there is a vibrant market for buying and selling defaulted receivables. And so it can be resold. And then what we see a lot of, and I'm going to mention Phil as one of our success stories. I'm not sure if Phil's on with us this morning. He's out of St. Louis, and he has sold 15 portfolios in the past week. Phil's a machine. Well, how in the world is Phil, who's a brand new debt buyer, how has he moved 15 portfolios in the past week? Well, he has clients that want to access capital. And when Phil looks at he's a white label partner of ours, I should tell you. And so when he looks at their balance sheet and sees that they have what? A collateral shortfall. The amount of money that the client's wanting to get funding, borrow, is not substantiated with assets on the balance sheet. So Phil is superb at just simply explaining to the client, you have a collateral shortfall. Let's fix that problem. Let's add income producing assets to your balance sheet so you're stronger on paper, more credible on paper. And he's literally had, to the best of my knowledge, 100% conversions doing that. So you might say, well, yeah, this all sounds really interesting and good and lucrative, but I don't know where I'd get clients from. Do what Phil does. He doesn't have to go look for debt buying clients. He doesn't look for any. He brings clients on as a white label partner, and he knows statistically that most small businesses will have a crucial problem. What is that problem? A collateral shortfall. And he doesn't have to like make it up and persuade them and twist their arm. It's quite simply looking at the balance sheet on one side of his computer screen and the other side of what's the requested amount of funds. And if there's a disconnect, a collateral shortfall, then he has literally, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, literally converted 100% of his clients into the collateral support program. It's easy if you do it that way. I frankly don't know how you just go out and talk to people and go sell collateral support programs. I don't know. I'm sure you could figure it out because you're probably smarter at that than I am. But I know it's super simple if you just do it organically. Bring clients into the capital raise program. Once you get to module 3, where you're looking at their balance sheet, it just becomes painfully obvious. So then purchase debt can be obtained for literally 1 cent on the dollar. So when we sell a portfolio, let's take Phil or you or anyone else, we literally sell that $100,000 portfolio for only upfront 1 cent on the dollar. And then it can be leveraged to create positive cash flow. Because what's the second biggest problem that most small businesses have? Cash flow. Number 1, collateral shortfall. Number 2, cash flow. You and I can literally address both of those. Well, how in the world are we going to help them with cash flow, especially if they're paying 1 cent on the dollar to buy this portfolio? Because what are we going to do? We're going to help them liquidate the receivable. Again, using the lawn care analogy, our goal wouldn't be just to go sign up people for lawn care contracts. It would be to get them to pay as agreed, right? So what we do is we work with our debt buyers to liquidate the accounts receivable so money starts coming in, whether it be through collections, through litigation, or even sometimes the threat of liquidation, by reselling the debt if necessary, and then flipping, which is, I guess we didn't go through that a moment ago. Flipping is the concept where you take a purchase portfolio and repackage it so then it can be either factored, you might have heard of AR factoring, or AR financing. Sorry if I missed that earlier. So you and I can help small businesses that wouldn't otherwise qualify for funding by eliminating, solving 2 of the key problems: collateral shortfall and cash flow. All right, and we recently announced that we're going to start having in-person trainings, because, and it's not required that you come to the in-person training, but it's nice to spend some time together and know each other personally, but also we can go through more in depth. When we do these morning Zoom trainings, they're fine, but they're kind of like bits and pieces here and there. And so now that the pandemic has calmed down a bit, we're going to return to having live in-person trainings, which we've done for many years. The agenda of what we'll go through this one-day training includes how to set up your debt buying business properly, getting familiar with key regulatory organizations, getting familiar with key terms and concepts. Crucial here, understanding the importance of the chain of title. Obtain and understand key contractual templates. So everyone will walk away with the contractual template so they can sell portfolios. The yellow highlighted is important, and it really dovetails off of what we've talked about a fair amount already, is that most small businesses want and need more capital to start to grow, to reach their potential. I think that's an irrefutable fact. Most small businesses want and need more money. Second fact, most don't qualify. That's why they don't have it. That's why there's a continued need. What's the 2 reasons that typically keep small businesses from qualifying for funding? Collateral shortfall and inadequate cash flow. You and I fix that with one solution here. So that's the Phil model again. That's why Phil has been so successful. And I asked Phil, I don't know if it's yesterday or the day before, I said, Phil, I mean, you're on fire, man, and that's impressive, but what's your motivation? And he loves to help people. He wants to buy a new Porsche 911 for cash. And he just said straight out, within 30 days, I'll sell enough portfolios, I'm going to go buy a brand new Porsche 911 for cash. So you go, Phil. And then, of course, it's a great networking opportunity as well. Our next in-person training is on Saturday, April 30th. We typically limit these sessions to around 10 participants because we want it to be very interactive. So we're going to hold this one, and there's others that are forthcoming if this date or location doesn't work for you. It's going to be in Tyler, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas, Fort Worth. American Airlines flies directly into Tyler. And of course, nearly every airline flies into DFW if you want to fly in and just drive out. We'll start promptly at 9 a.m., promptly at 9. If you're not there at 9, we're going to start without you. We'll have lunch included, and we'll wrap up around 4. And this is a free training, so we're not trying to charge you for this. If you're one of our debt buyers, you come, and this is part of the training. Can you be a debt buyer without coming to the in-person training? Absolutely, absolutely. The key point I wanted to make today, and then we'll open it up for question and answer, is we're wanting to bring these workshops out into communities across the country. And so if you would like to be the host or the facilitator, you could use either term, then we would love to set up one. Like we have one coming up in Maryland. We're securing the date. We talked to a gentleman yesterday that's going to host one in Las Vegas here soon. So if you would like to host a debt buying workshop in your area, we will provide the instructor. You'll provide the room, and then essentially you get paid 2 ways. We'll pay you a flat $2,500 for hosting or facilitating the workshop. And again, with that, you are providing the room. So if you have a room, you can use your room. If not, you need to go secure a room. That's part of being the host. But also then these attendees can then buy a portfolio from you, because you obviously will be able to attend and participate for free. And then the concept is you buy portfolios at wholesale, you sell them at retail, you make the markup. And you control the markup, but typically it's 5 to 10,000. So to do that, it's real simple. You can go to debtbuyersclub.com. Let us know on that simple form the date that you propose. If the date works for you and works for us, then you want to go ahead and secure a location. We do need at least 10 attendees. 10 is the sweet spot that I mentioned. We normally don't like to go much above 10. We can make exceptions, but we want it to be interactive. But we do need 10 to have minimal critical mass for the class, for the workshop. All right, so let's go back and review what we covered and start drilling into your questions. Collateral shortfall is an incredibly important term that the average entrepreneur has never been taught. They don't understand. They have financial literacy in many regards, and that's what you and I do, is help improve financial literacy. So collateral shortfall is defined as a lack of equilibrium between the amount of capital that the small business is wanting to borrow and the strength of their balance sheet, the collateral that they can pledge. How do you fix a collateral shortfall? Well, frankly, there's 2 ways. One is what we've talked about. The other is just frankly lower the capital raise request down to match whatever collateral they have. But often that's not a real good strategy, because a lot of these early stage small businesses have so little collateral, they would really have hardly any borrowing capacity. So it would make more sense to strengthen their balance sheet, add collateral, and then be able to have access to more capital. We also talked about cash flow is commonly a constraint of early stage small businesses. Well, these are income producing debt portfolios. They're typically composed of 10 accounts, each have a $50 a day late fee. So once the ownership is transferred to the debt buyer, to the small business, we train them, we support them, we assist them in getting invoices out to those 10 clients. There's a 2-day grace period, and starting on the 3rd day, then there are daily late fees. So if you have 10 accounts and $50 a day late fees, that's $500 a day in late fees that's now being accrued. It's a new source of income for that business. If there's an average of 30 days in the month, $500 a day times 30, that's $15,000 of a new revenue stream that shows as income on their income statement, also called profit and loss. So we'll show them how to set that up in QuickBooks. We'll show them how to use accrual accounting versus cash accounting. And now all of a sudden they have income on their balance sheet, which increases their access to capital, and they have adequate collateral. So they don't have what? They don't have a collateral shortfall. All right, so that's a lot to drop on you in 20 minutes. Let's dig into the questions. What questions do any of you have regarding the collateral? Okay, Winston's asking about pricing. So thank you, Winston. So I'll make this larger. So when we sell the debt portfolios, we sell them for 10 cents on the dollar, which is a great deal, but we only charge the purchaser 1 cent on the dollar to start the transaction, and essentially we finance the other 9 cents, Winston. So what I said was an inconsistency. I just probably didn't describe it well enough. So debt is bought for 10 cents on the dollar. It can be resold typically for 15 to 20 cents on the dollar, and that represents the markup we were talking about here. And Winston, you're right. It's only the only out-of-pocket cost to get started is 1 cent on the dollar. Thank you, Winston, for pointing that out. All right, so who else has questions? Karen, I see you have a question. Go ahead and type it into the Q&A. Looks like Joey is asking different ways to get involved. So you could certainly, Joey, come to the in-person training if you wanted. You could host a workshop and we would bring the training to you. Or you could do neither of those, Joey, and just continue to do what you've been doing, bringing clients into the access to capital. And you will find that most small businesses have a collateral shortfall. And then you have a very organic pool, organic process to be able to offer the collateral support program to, because their balance sheet shows inadequate collateral for the amount that they want to borrow. Mark is asking about financing options for purchasing the debt. And yes, I mean, we that's what we do, right? So there's dozens of different financing options for working capital, and that's really what this would be, a working capital loan. So many different options, Mark, but we do offer guaranteed 0% financing. Once the 1 cent on the dollar, 1% is paid down, we'll finance internally the other 9% at 0% interest. But Mark, if I guess if you don't like 0%, and that those are monthly payments, so very easy to make. But Mark, if you don't, I guess, like 0% interest, then we can go to a third-party lender, and it just probably wouldn't be 0%. But many financing options. Lon's asking a good question about reporting to the credit bureau. So if the goal is to have the financing for the debt portfolio to be reported to the credit bureaus, then we would use a third-party lender that does report to the bureaus. Or if you want the 0% financing that we do in-house, then, I mean, that's great. It's essentially free money, but no, we don't report to the bureaus unless there's a default. And then, of course, once there's a default, then if there would be a default, then we would go to third-party collections, which would report. Winston's asking a good question. So Winston's saying, okay, so I'm a debt buyer. I'm buying it at wholesale, selling it at retail. How do the clients pay for it? And so thank you, Winston. So either they could pay you out of pocket, and you would know, right, if they can afford it or not, because you've looked at their balance sheet, right? If you're a white label partner and taking clients through, and you don't have to be a white label partner to be a debt buyer, of course, but you have seen their finances. But we can always, just going back to the prior question, we can use third-party financing for them to be able to pay you for the portfolio. But no, Winston, you don't need to do internal financing. I think that was really his question. We can use third-party financing for them to pay for it. Excellent. Okay, so Karen is one of our partners, and we're setting up at least one workshop, and she's asking here, can she do these workshops on a regular basis? And frankly, I think we should be setting them up, Karen, together once a month. I think we could put together a calendar, set the dates on through the end of the year, and have a full calendar. So you're right, Karen, we don't have to have a collaborative workshop talking about here at the bottom just once. We could have it on an ongoing basis. We just need to get those dates reserved, get the rooms reserved. And I think you already have a room. I think it was at a country club, if I recall. And then you just need to get the attendees registered. And then she's also asking about, so our typical portfolios, we package them in $100,000 portfolios. So we have some clients that buy more. We've had 2 clients in the past week that bought 6 portfolios each. So it's not unusual for a client to need more assets than just 100,000, but we package them in individual $100,000 increments, Karen. Thank you for that question. Hannah's asking about conducting another workshop. No, we'll send someone out to teach the workshop. You would facilitate it, you would host it, you would be paid, but no, you don't have to teach it, Hannah. And you have enough background, you probably could teach it. A lot of our partners, I don't know that would be well equipped to teach it. So no, you don't teach it. We send the teacher out. Mark's asking about payment period for the in-house financing. So for the in-house financing, we normally break it down over 10 months. So the nice thing is that as we start to do the liquidation, it cash flows positively. It's not, and that's a great point. I think that's what Mark is alluding to. That this is designed to generate positive cash flow for the client and solve the collateral shortfall. This isn't meant to be a financial hardship or an expense. So of course, they're going to need to buy the portfolio from you, Mark. You know that, I know that. But as they liquidate it, it generates more cash flow, more than enough to service the debt. Plus, now they have the collateral on paper to be credible. Thank you, Mark, for that follow-up. And then Hannah's got a follow-up. Right, Hannah. So as I meant to clarify here, it's my fault, not yours. So we're going to have workshops scheduled, and we've actually got others, and you'll see it on Debt Buyers Club, but we also have one scheduled now in Houston or the Woodlands, Texas. But if you want us to come teach it with you, Hannah, then you'll get paid. And again, we'll provide the instructor. It's not putting the burden to you. Karen asked a very interesting question I didn't expect. She asked, is the money that she's going to make from the workshop taxable income? And the answer to that is it depends on how you set it up. It could be non-taxable income or it could be taxable income. It depends upon how you set it up, Karen, and we can talk about both options. Okay, who else has questions, comments, concerns on what we've covered today? We've reiterated the importance of solving a key problem, and that key problem that most small businesses have is that they have a collateral shortfall. And secondly, many of them have cash flow problems. You and I can solve both of those, their collateral shortfall and their cash flow problems, by the Collateral Support Program. You become what's called a debt buyer. You can join our group, and there's no charge to be a member of the group. What we call the Debt Buyers Club has a website now. And so then you'll be buying and selling debt, and you make a profit off of it. And we have another distribution partner. His name's Bruce. Bruce is interesting, and he takes a different approach. He is not marking up the debt. He is selling the debt at cost to his clients, because he knows that the capital that's raised, he's focused on AR financing, because he knows that the capital that's raised is subject to a performance fee. And he's like, well, if I can get all of my clients funded more quickly in a greater amount, I won't mark up the collateral. I'll just simply collect the performance fee off the back end. And that's his approach, which is fine. Who else has questions? And Joseph, when we mentioned, yeah, we plan on having one with him up in Northwest Arkansas as well. So I didn't mean to suggest that we've identified every upcoming potential workshop. Right now, there are 2 officially on the books. You'll see those on Debt Buyers Club, the soonest of which is the one in Tyler, and then the second of which is the one in the Woodlands, Texas, outside of Houston. But yeah, we're working with Joseph, we're working with Pauline, we're working with a number of you on setting up workshops in other areas. They're just not secured enough. And then I know that some of you are not wanting your workshops put on our main site, because if we're capping attendees at around 10, you don't want to cannibalize your seats. So most likely not all workshops that are scheduled will be on our website. Some of them will be marketed other ways by the host, but that's probably too much detail. Who else has questions, comments, concerns regarding how you and I can resolve the problem of collateral shortfall, how we can help small businesses resolve cash flow issues, both of which through the Collateral Support Program? Who has a question, comment, or concern on what we've covered today? All right, well, I think we've got it covered. Debtbuyersclub.com is a good place to go. Oh, okay, Robert's got a question before we go. He asked, is there a charge to participants at the workshop? Well, as is stated right here, we don't want to charge attendees. So if they have bought a portfolio from you, then they would be able to attend for free. And then he also asked, is there anything sold at the workshop? No, there's nothing sold at the workshop. We're going through and teaching them this agenda. So you're going to really have 2 different types of people that might attend the workshop. You might have people that are interested in becoming a debt buyer because of the lucrative nature. And then others, you might have small businesses that attend that need to understand more deeply how this can solve their problems, how to liquidate the debt, and so forth. So you'd really have potentially buyers and sellers at a given workshop. But while there is a fee, as clearly stated here, Robert, if they've not bought a portfolio, but most people that are going to attend this will be those that have bought a portfolio, either with the intent to resell or to strengthen their balance sheet. And so that's the target audience. Thank you, Robert, for that. Okay, well, there's our message for the day. Collateral shortfall is the term of the day. Keep that in mind, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a good day. Bye-bye.